more than 100 years, the adventures of Peter Pan have captivated audiences. From the famous play starring Mary Martin in the title role to the beloved Disney movie, the classic tale was the brainchild of playwright J.M. Barrie. And now the story of how Barrie came to imagine a world of fairies and lost boys is the subject of a new musical based on the 2004 film Finding the Neverland. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen has more.
Finding Neverland follows J.M. Barrie, the failing Scottish playwright who turned his career around with Peter Pan in 1904. Directed by the American Repertory Theater's Diane Paulus, the show mines the fantastic, the whimsical, and the magical.
You know, the story of Neverland has to be magical in any way you tell it. Like if you're telling the story of Peter Pan or the creation of Peter Pan, I mean, there's so many intrinsic magical elements to the story that you have to bring those to the table and bring them to life. Broadway and television star Jeremy Jordan plays J.M. Barrie, whom we meet in early 20th century England as a struggling playwright. Jordan says it's a role unlike any he's done before.
Dance with me, Porthos!
I'm just running and jumping and breathing and completely exhausted. It's more vocally taxing than anything I've ever done. I'm just speaking and yelling and belting and singing and everything that you could possibly imagine. And then on top of that, it's emotionally exhausting.
Beauty and love there forever and eternity.
Barrie produced Peter Pan after meeting the recently widowed Sylvia Davies and her 4 boys, the eventual inspiration behind the Lost Boys of Neverland. Barrie and the family became fast friends, and the world became their playground as they reveled in their own imagination.
When you look, tell me, what do you see? Is it real? Is it fiction? Only make-believe.
They sort of forced him to turn his whole outlook on writing the world upside down in a great way, and he was able to take risks and go places that he probably never was able to go because he had sort of suppressed that child inside of him for so long.
As Jordan knows, the power of imagination is also a crucial skill for an actor. By returning to the childlike innocence of make-believe, Jordan says he's grown as an actor and as a human being.
You can, you know, pretend that you're something incredible, even if you're too scared to do that in real life. And I think over time it tends to affect you as an artist, and as I've been an actor longer and longer and longer, I've opened up more as a person, and I've began to take more risks in my own life in terms of exposing, you know, all the things that are inside. And so, I mean, it's had a great positive effect on me.
Laura Michelle Kelly plays Sylvia Davies. She benefited as much from Barrie as he did from the family. Playing with Barrie and the children provided a welcome distraction for Davies, who had recently lost her husband to cancer and needed an escape.
She's got 4 children and she's lost her husband in a horrific way. And when we meet her, she's holding it together frantically for the boys. And it's been a bit of time, but there's still pain there.
But remember what you promised me, that we would stand together, that we'd get through this together, yes?
And she meets a man who makes her children laugh, which opens up the door to new possibilities in her life again.
But with a little imagination, like a trip up the Amazon River with Teddy Roosevelt,
Look out! It's a waterfall!
her troubles started to melt away. One of the most exciting parts of the show, says Kelly, is working with the 4 child actors who play her sons.
These kids are amazing. I'm always astounded with what they can do. And they're all younger than I was when I started. And they're geniuses, and they're teaching me so much.
And with these young actors leading the way, the possibilities on stage seem endless. But there's more to the show than just imagination and fun, says Kelly. It reminds us that a little play goes a long way.
I think the best way to deal with tragedy is to get in touch with your inner child. And I think it's a good lesson for most people to, okay, here's a door, and here's how you can get back there.
You act like you really don't care, but how does it feel to be floating on air? Believe, believe, believe
So Kim, this show has already drawn in audiences. It's been in previews. It just opened last week to standing room only crowds, and now they announced just with the opening last week that this show will go to Broadway. Yet another in the ART's recent history of sending shows to Broadway, like Pippin and Porgy and Bess and Glass Menagerie, and now Finding Neverland.
Right. Well, okay. Now you've told us about the background, and we've seen the story, but tell us what you thought of the show. Did you like it?
I really did like this show. I mean, it is so energetic and warm and heartfelt, and its nuance is what I really appreciate. So you get this great story of J.M. Barrie and meeting these kids and how he finds his own creative outlet as an artist through these children and through the widow, Sylvia Llewellyn-Davies. It plays a little bit with the biographical facts in terms of when he meets them and when her husband had passed away. But you get this sense of creativity and energy that comes forward, and I always say that Diane Paulus, who is the artistic director of the American Repertory Theater, now a Tony winner herself, has her own terrific theatrical vocabulary, and you see it here because everything moves and there's this fantastic pacing, and you get this this great storytelling. And I'll say that also in a time where we're sort of cognizant of artists and some of their struggles with Robin Williams' death last week, you also get the nuance here of what happens to an artist who's struggling, because before he hit with Peter Pan, J.M. Barrie was sort of up against it. He had theatrical producers who couldn't conceive of having this kind of imagination put on the stage, something that had normally just been costume dramas on the London stage.
Where did he come up with Peter Pan?
It really was through these kids. I mean, it was an idea that biographers say really had germinated throughout his life, but he teased it out from this family and then had the conviction, which is a great part of this show as well. He had the conviction to say, I'm going to push this forward and I'm going to put this on the stage, and to everybody's surprise, frankly, it did so extremely well. Then it came to America, and then of course became the legend it is today.
Will we have the great pleasure of saying that these actors who were on stage here in Boston will take it to Broadway?
Well, it's too soon to tell. But this does have an interesting background, and Harvey Weinstein, who produced the film Finding Neverland, on which this is based, he was there at opening night. I saw him. He has had control of this with Diane Paulus in the very beginning. He wants this to be a terrific show to go to Broadway. So far, every other show that the ART has sent to Broadway has been with the cast largely intact. But it's interesting here, Matthew Morrison, who we know from Glee, was originally slated to play J.M. Barrie. He did the workshops early in New York, but then had to beg off for other career obligations. So now we have Jeremy Jordan.
I might be nervous if I was Jeremy, though, if I thought that he could be in the background, right, when it goes to...
I don't think that Jeremy Jordan or Laura Michelle Kelly have anything to worry about because they're both fantastic.
All right, what do you got coming up tomorrow night?
Tomorrow I'll interview Suki Forbes, who has written this terrific book. It's called The Angel in My Pocket. You can tell by her last name, Forbes, and Saltonstall. She was a Boston Brahmin who had to contend with the sudden death of her 6-year-old daughter as a WASP, as she says. She didn't really know how to process that, and this book goes into detail about how she accepted the death of her daughter. It's a very difficult story, but well told.
Sounds very interesting. We'll look forward to that. Jared, thank you very much. Good to see you.